to be asked to present the prizes this afternoon, and delighted also to be asked to say a few words to you. Evidently the current members of the committee don't know me, because otherwise they would know that I never say one word where 10 can do, but I'll try and contain my natural loquacity and keep the spiel down to a minimum. I'd like this afternoon to talk to you about babies, where they come from and when. Now, I won't insult your intelligence by denying stories of stalk bushes and stalks and gooseberry bushes and such like things, because we all know that by and large that's true. Having said that, though, there is one instance where I know it not to be true, and I can here and now confirm that the Ford 100E Owners Club, as it was indeed hatched in an Irish peat bog. This could have been helped, my suspicion is, by some sort of lubrication of Guinness. Uncharacteristic though that would be of me, it's just about possible, I suspect. But anyway, in the middle of a holiday in Ireland, in, at least as far as I'm concerned, an Irish peat bog, I thought this is a wonderful opportunity to go back to the UK and start a club specialising in particular in the Ford 100E. Now, I bought my first 100E in 1967. I can't quite now remember why I bought it. I'd learned to drive on a driving school's Triumph Heralds, and I suspect that the slightly boxy shape of the Triumph Herald and the slightly boxy shape of the 100E conveyed to me some sort of reminiscence one to the other. Of course, at that stage I didn't know anything about side valves and overhead valves. I wouldn't have known a McPherson strut from any other sort of strut, and I certainly hadn't been initiated into the wonders of vacuum windscreen wipers, thank goodness. When I was back in the UK, anyway, I wrote to various motoring magazines suggesting that if anybody else who had a 100E would like to contact me, we might be able to put a 100E Owners Club together. And the response was modest, it has to be said, but out of the response I was able to put together my first committee. We met, amazingly, you may think, at the Pope's Grotto in Twickenham. Surprisingly enough, we all appeared to have an interest in real beer, which at the time was quite an endangered species, this being the days of Red Barrel and horriblenesses like that. And we had a convivial meeting, out of which the bones of the 100E Owners Club were laid, and we decided that we would include 170s, simply because most members of the general public couldn't tell them apart from 100Es anyway, at least unless the engine was running. And initially we discussed, and indeed quite soon afterwards adopted, other Ford side valves as well. Our first big breakthrough, I think, though, was when we got quite a bit of Ian Morton's weekly column in the Evening Standard. Ian Morton was the motoring correspondent of the Evening Standard. Quite a bit of his weekly column was devoted to the then newly formed 100E Owners Club. And at once, membership went from tens to hundreds. Now that sounds nothing compared to the impressive membership that the Ford Side Valve Owners Club has today, but at the time it seemed like a lot to us, particularly since we were producing, for instance, the magazine Side Valve on a pre-war hand-cranked duplicator without any ink feed, and we, including my now wife Judy, were sitting down on my bedroom floor, collating all the pages of this, stapling them, stuffing them into envelopes and sticking labels on, and this was a labour of love if I ever knew one. We got on board very early on Bill Cooper, the revered author of Tuning Side Valve Fords, who was our president, and we had a lot of active help from the Ford Motor Company, in particular in the person of Tony Spalding, who was very good at attending our various rallies and side valve days and so on, who presented prizes for treasure hunts, and I'm glad to note that the standard of the clues appears to be just as good as it was in those days. And who judged the competition for the badge design. We ran in Side Valve a competition for the best badge design for the 100E Owners Club. And the design which came out top, the design which Tony Spalding and his colleagues at Ford picked, is indeed very much the design that you have today for the Ford Side Valve Owners Club. Which brings us back, I think, quite neatly to where we are today. That 1969 baby evidently grew up to be a strapping adult from what I see around me. So I can do no more but wish the club and all of you every success in the next quarter century. And if you're kind enough to ask me to present the prizes in 2119, then I will bore you with another 5 minutes of reminiscences of 1969. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Roger. Don't go away. We need you back out the front again just for a moment. While Jim passes you something.
Hello folks. We're all here today not only to enjoy ourselves but to celebrate 25 years of the 100E stroke Fordside Valve Owners Club. Now, I don't know how many of you can go back to 25 years as members. Probably not many. I can almost make it, but not quite. Those of you who do have a long memory will no doubt remember one name cropping up on a very regular basis. It didn't matter what was being done, it was seen to be done by one particular person, for year in, year out. And that person is our founder, standing here now, Roger Palmer. Everywhere you looked in the magazine, there was Roger's name. And this isn't really surprising, because in one of the magazines he actually confessed that he wrote the thing more or less cover to cover. So, fair enough. But over the years, Roger put an awful lot into the club, an awful lot. So it's now my pleasure to give just a little bit back, just a little memento of this day, a couple of plaques, our cartoon book, and the programme. And I'd like you to join me in saying thank you very much to Roger for making this club, or at least for founding this club, and making it what it is today.